My name's Chase, and I am a facilitator here at Sidebar. I'm really excited about this embarking on this experience with you all. You know, our mission here at Sidebar is really to connect extraordinary leaders, much like the amazing folks on our panel today, and catalyze your extraordinary success. You know, these sessions are really designed to allow you to connect and learn with other members of the Sidebar community while practicing core skills that are really essential to working through challenges here at Sidebar and beyond. At Sidebar, we present and work through challenges we want to work through in a very specific way. The goal of this approach is to provide just enough context to the group so we can help you in a meaningful way. But a 90-minute meeting with your personal board of directors can move pretty quickly. So you heard our panelists say the word bottom lining a few times. So speaking in a concise and really effective way is one of the skills that we work on. And we're going to put that into practice with our rapid removing blockers section here with our with a few of the folks that will be spotlighting here. So I'm going to share my screen and show you how we work through challenges. Let me find the little share screen. There we go. So this is a little bit about the Sidebar process. So this is how we work through topics and challenges. It kicks off with one person sharing their challenge. In 90 seconds or less, we say, what's happening? Why is it important? And how can the group support you? Then another member will restate the challenge. And we'll spend the bulk of our time asking what and how questions to both deepen our understanding of the challenge, as well as coach this member through potential solutions that they can arrive to on their own. But we need to harness the collective wisdom of the group. So we will reserve some time for suggestions, ideas, and advice. And then at the end of the removing blockers section, as we call it, the member will share their accountability. So this is what I'm going to do based on this conversation, and how can the group support you? I often like to say this is based on a quote from Albert Einstein, who said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes asking questions and 5 minutes thinking of solutions. The coaching aspect of this process is really key to leading to these unlocks. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and thank you to our lovely participants here who will go through the Sidebar process today. I believe we have Shuba Shetty here. Hi, Shuba. Shuba has a challenge that she wants to work through with our group. So Shuba, I'm going to ask that you bottom line your challenge. What's happening? Why is it important? And how can the group help?
Thank you, Chase. And thanks, everyone, for the opportunity, especially Han and Chase for having me. My name is Shuba. I'm the VP of Product at Fanatics. It's a global sports entertainment technology company. If you have watched the Super Bowl and most importantly, bought any merchandise from any professional league, thank you very much. Please continue to do so. The challenge that I'm faced with right now is that we just came into finalizing our 2024 plans, and there is a business stakeholder that I cannot seem to please or satisfy. And I'm sure many of us have been in this situation before. And we just had an important exec level meeting where we were discussing the entire roadmap end to end. And this business stakeholder, he brought up the lack of investment, the lack of innovation happening in his area, where I thought we had aligned on a lot of what the investment was before. So there were a few surprises that came up that I just am struggling with what should I do next, because this is not the first time that this has happened with this particular business stakeholder. And I'm trying to see, and I'm obviously, I can't use the same tactics that I'd used in the past in terms of prepping and planning before, because I'd done the same things and it's not working. What is it that I should do as a next step? We did have a peaceful closure to the meeting, but I have as you can imagine, for a product roadmap discussion, a ton of follow-ups to do, specifically with this business stakeholder. I feel like I need new tools in terms of moving forward and gaining alignment with this business stakeholder. So
Okay.
that's my challenge.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shuba. So I want to look at our participants here. Who wants to raise their hand and restate the challenge in a simple manner that Shuba shared? All right. Shirag, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You got it, Chase. Well,
Perfect.
hello, everyone. Yeah, so the problem that Suba is facing is not very uncommon, right? There is a stakeholder that is important for the company. He's an executive or he or she. And whatever roadmap that Suba is presenting to the executives, he doesn't seem to be aligned with the priorities, right? He feels like his priorities are not being looked at, his priorities are not being accounted for. He feels lack of innovation in whatever business area he's leading. And so even though Suba has tried aligning with him prior to the meetings, it doesn't seem to work out well, and he still brings up those challenges in the meeting with the broader stakeholders. So I'll pause there.
How did we do, Shuba?
Did great. Thank you so much, Chirag, sharing it. You did much better than me.
Wonderful. So we're going to spend the next 5 minutes just asking questions. So let's stay away from offering any advice, suggestions, or ideas. We can ask what and how questions to deepen our understanding, as well as ask some questions that could potentially coach Shuba through this challenge. Who'd like to kick us off? All right, Coco?
Hey, I was curious, you mentioned that you've already gone through a number of tactics that you can't really use again. So in order for me to better understand what you've done so far, could you summarize some of those?
Absolutely. So, this has been happening for the last couple of years. So this isn't new. So the first default of when it happened for the first time is when I coached my team in turn to be able to help prep, and align with him and show the roadmap, have a meeting with his team, discuss the roadmap in detail so they can see kind of end to end what the investments are. And also, I think, so that's one thing that I did in terms of coaching my team and prepping and what I thought was aligning his team on the details better. The second is, a lot of sometimes roadmap decisions, as you can empathize, it's sometimes driven by budget. So this is a VP of operations. I can only empathize how difficult his job is, but my budget is focused more on supporting some other teams from a marketing, technology, Gen AI, improvements, etc. That's where the CFO's mandate is. And so just sticking with that in terms of kind of presenting and making sure he's aligned on the high level budgeting decisions is also something that I invested time in. So I think those were the two things. And I also, this time around, I also personally checked in with him. I said, hey, we're coming into this meeting. How are you feeling about it? What are some of the, I empathized and I shared that, in an ideal world, we would invest a lot in operations, but that's not the mandate that's actually coming from the CFO. And I thought we had nodded, but clearly I think I'm missing something. So those were the things that I did previously, Natalia. Does that help?
All
Yes,
right. Wonderful. Let's hear from Ji. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, Ji?
It sounds like Jeff, but Z
Jeff.
is fine.
Okay, perfect. What questions do you have for Shuba?
Yeah, thank you, Shuba. You mentioned that you did have touch base with him this time. In the past, have you had more frequent kind of check-ins with the stakeholder? And the second question is, each year when you mentioned, right, do the yearly planning, for this particular year, do you know what are some of the KPIs that the VP of operations is responsible for?
Yeah, it's a great two-part question. So I'll answer both of those questions. How is my regular touch base with him? We have a regular standing monthly one-on-one. About 70% of the time it does get honored. He does live in a different part of the country, so it's mostly through Zoom. So I do feel there is an opportunity maybe here to be a little bit more personal. But I have to be honest with you. I mean, like the mandate from the budget standpoint is to focus on some of the other growth areas. The operations is more of an efficiency area that I'm not being asked to kind of like focus on too. So if you say VP of marketing and the CMO, I have many more touch bases with them and their team where my team's budget is more invested in. than possibly this particular stakeholder. So that's one thing. And I think the second question, Jeff, I'm sorry, was it?
It's more, what do you know? What are the KPIs
KPIs.
or the OKRs that he's been, I guess, measured against?
I have to say, not at a very detailed level. I know the top level KPIs that all of the VPs are aspiring towards, and we openly share and discuss and debate that. So do I know the second, third level of kind of like what the drivers are and how he's, one of the things that I do realize is that he has a team of like 1,000 people that he has to manage. 80% of them are seasonal, as you can imagine. And there's basically just a hodgepodge of tools, in terms of like legacy and digital transformation that we could potentially invest in. But, an easier, not easier, but a viable alternative is to be able to just throw some bodies at the problem too, which is what we're kind of doing. So we have KPIs in terms of on-time shipping, warehouse efficiency that I'm aware of. But second, third level drivers and knowing that there are viable alternate choices kind of drives the level of detail that that I know and I'm investing time in to know more. Does that answer your question, Jeff?
Yep. Good. Thank you.
So now let's dive into, Natalia, if you have one more question, and then let's dive into some ideas, solutions, and advice. We're kind of moving in a speed round here for the sake of time, but I sense that our group has chomping at the bit to dish out some advice for Shuba. So Natalia, take it away.
Yeah, final question. So do you know a little bit about her background? Like, this person had to build an entire department within the company, like how long they've been at the company? Did they used to have tons of support and suddenly they just don't anymore?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking. This person is a rock star, operations leader, comes from Amazon, is used to so much innovation and technology investment in operations. We're a retail commerce shop. We look at operations very differently from an efficiency standpoint. Most of our technology investments is in the front-end experience and in our retail stores. So he is fundamentally, I think, a little frustrated in terms of the lack of investment across the board. It's a great question. But he's a rock star leader that comes from Amazon.
All right. What ideas, suggestions, and advice do we have for Shuba? Yeah, Chirag. Or Natalia and then Chirag.
Oh, no, sorry. I completely forgot to raise my hand. Yeah, I'll go really fast. So, I mean, I think, and this is from experience too, from working with like leaders that have been great, but just extremely hard to work with, is almost treating them almost like a product too, understanding how they communicate. Like, when you do a product, you do research, right? Like, you do your market research, like how much time you have. You do so much in research to do something in product that you kind of treat them like that as well. Like, understand their communication style, their background, right? And try to kind of, because it's going to be hard, right? You're not going to be able to shift your priorities just because of the stakeholder. But I think just making them feel that they're just listening, but really connecting with them is going to help you a little bit. So that's something I would say.
Chirag,
I love the tackling people problem as product problems. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you for that framing.
Great. First of all, I'll say, and this is not something new because I know, Shuba, you've been a product leader for a long time. As product leaders, our job is not to please everybody, so don't lose your sleep over it. That's just going to be part of our job. The second thing I'll say is I'm sure you guys use some sort of prioritization framework, right? But I'll just put things on a priority. Like, I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's aligning with the corporate vision, right? What are the objectives that Fanatics have? And if it's growing P&L, if it's growing net retention, customer acquisition, whatever that may be, how do you tie those priorities with them? And his, as it comes to his operational priorities, right? How do they line up? And I will just bring that as I don't know if you guys do portfolio planning, right? But I'll just put all of it in paper and say, here are all the priorities that line up investment. And right now, let's say we are only investing 5% in operations. Let's put them in an executive table and share it with everybody and let's challenge it, right? This is how I made my decision because this is how I tie up these priorities. Let's openly challenge each other, right? But as long as we're aligned to those objectives, then he would understand it, even though he's not going to like it. So I'll keep it concise. I know we are bottom lining, so.
Kelly.
So I trust that you have used a lot of data and also facts and also processes to help drive the discussions. I think based on what I learned from you, the stakeholder still has something else in mind that is beyond the facts that you have laid on the table. So I think that's like the personal connection I know Natalie has also highlighted. So some of the things that I would share is make sure that he feels that he's heard. So he has now heard your side where, yes, this is not the priority, this data, this is the roadmap, everything. Make sure that he's also given that time and maybe share that with him at your next one-on-one, monthly one-on-one. Say, this is the agenda. Like, I actually want you to talk. I'm not talking this time. I'm not coming here to tell you like what is now the decisions. I'm just let you talk. You tell me about your department, your constraint, your KPI, your everything, and that's the whole. And probably I would invite him to definitely attend that one too. And then try to also when you have big meetings, a lot of time when you come to prioritization, there's so many stakeholders. Actually, try to use that monthly one-on-one to get early buy-in from him, so he get a sneak preview from what you're gonna put on the table at the big meeting. So then he also, again, give him opportunity to voice his concern, which can actually help you to manage his reaction at that bigger formal meeting too. So you can be more proactive in his side, his perspective. And then a few more things I'll highlight or share is try to identify also circle of influence. So don't feel like it's all on you to influence him. Try to find who else share that work very closely with him, share maybe similar KPI with him that now is actually more supportive of the overall roadmap. Use the circle of influence to influence him. And then the last thing is it's difficult, but it's not really your role, your job, roles, responsibility. But I try to sometimes take a further step to be part of now their solution. So I'm gonna say hard no to you on this roadmap, on the budget and everything. But how else can we still help you to figure out your work to still achieve your KPI? It's not gonna come from this budget. But how else? Is it stakeholders? Is it different processes? Is there thing that it wouldn't take the same pot of money or the same tech resource, the same group of engineer to still be part of the true partner, not just someone to tell him like a no, but help him to find the how.
Beautiful.
That's
And
awesome.
for
Great
this,
nuggets, yeah.
for the sake of time, Shuba, I'm going to have you share your takeaway here from our participants. Our other two folks with their hands up, I encourage you to drop your suggestions in the chat as this can help Shuba continue to work through her blocker. But Shuba, what were your most salient takeaways here? What are you going to do based on this conversation?
This is super helpful. So the first thing I heard was that, continue doing what I'm doing. It's not like I'm doing something wrong and I have to completely pivot right now to change the entire portfolio or roadmap. Continue doing what I'm doing in terms of, strong foundations, reiterating the prioritization frameworks, all of the prep work that I'm doing. So continuing doing that. So I think that's very reassuring. So thank you for that. The two things that really stood out for me is one, treating a people problem like a product problem and showing more empathy in the situation all around. So I think that's an interesting takeaway for me. So he feels more listened to and heard. Maybe there's something there to dig deeper into. And the second one was really interesting. I do feel that meeting, that roadmap discussion meeting does put him in the defense a little bit. And so he feels a little reactive. So to your point of Kelly, giving him more space to talk, leading him through the discussion in a way that he feels like he has the space, I think is really an excellent idea. And lastly, getting more help and support to be able to do this. I mean, he's heard the budget prioritization frameworks, everything from the CFO and the CEO. We were all part of those discussions. So maybe there is a message here that he's also intending for the CFO, for instance, that I could probably assist him with, but basically just asking him where I can help support him with an increased, technology investment could, I think, open up some good conversations. So great. I feel like I have a few suggestions to work on. I'm so excited. Thank you all so much for your feedback.